Circuit has provided 8 different winners in the last 7 years, and all of them are present on the grid today. 20 Gabellini making his debut, Aprilia back on the grid as the Series 6 manufacturer, and Marco Melandri returned, having reversed his retirement decision, coming in to replace Leon Camia and adding a coda to his fine career. From the 5th row of the grid after a challenging Superpole session, these are the moments that championships are made of.
Yeah, that's going to be the key for Lowe's. It's going to be the key for all of these rides. Opportunity possible. If you're at the front of the field here at Jerez, you've got a chance. If you're in the middle of a pack, it's so difficult, and we saw for Jonathan Rea and for the other riders at the front of the field, try and convert that into the whole shot, and then
making its way down what is effectively the back straight, the longest straight on this circuit here in Jerez, heading
down in towards 6. This is where you can make the move, and there is easily the most famous of those overtaking opportunities
in Jerez, and on towards the grid, as you said, turn ditch effort. We caught up with Alvaro Bautista a couple of moments ago. Of course, he was twice a race winner here last lap, set in the slightly shorter Superpole run.
Alex Lowe's about the tyre situation, and well, not going to be able to ride them. You're going to have to manage the pace all the way throughout, and it really is going to be a case of trying to make sure you've got the tyre.
Jonathan Rea, the reigning world champion, all the way down in 4th position, a race position to which he is unaccustomed. Second round of the 2020 season. But we are racing once again in 2020. Good start from Michael van der Mark. Jonathan Rea is hot away. He gets the whole shot. Charging down the inside now, it's Toprak Razgatlioglu. Side of turn number 1 has been pushed down to 3rd position. Honda's trying to make their way through. Haslam cutting to the inside positions in the mid-pack. Tom Sykes dropping into 4th place as well. He's up on the tail of those two. Michael Ronda down then towards turn number 6. On board with Scott Ryder later on the brakes. Holds on to 2nd position for now. Wide for Tom Sykes. He drops 1 position, possibly even gets the better of Michael van der Mark, and is now onto the tail of
to do. Makes a good start into turn 1. Takes it between himself and Redding. That's going to be really important. But Toprak, his pace has been quite quick all the way through this weekend.
Alex apply the pressure to the riders directly in front of him. Now, will Tom Sykes become the cork in the bottle here? Sykes it behind him.
Scott Redding had the run on Toprak down that straight. Make sure he breaks a little bit deeper than Scott Redding. Good stuff from Loris Baz to latch on to the back of this leading 3 as well.
So there's a van der Mark in particular eager to make progress, and watch out for the continued efforts of Alex Lowe's further down the order as well. Pressurising, but for the moment at least, it's not been a good start to this race, and it's going to get even worse as Chaz Davies ducks down. Davies on the inside, van der Mark on the outside. Through comes Chaz Davies.
But Michael van der Mark moving backwards in this race. He's down in
certainly a class apart at the moment, and then there's the second of the riders, such as Bautista behind Sykes here, be able to find their way through and try to bridge the gap to the front. Separate second behind Michael van der Mark, so a separate fight for 10th. Van der Mark in tow as well.
Now, we haven't got the tyre sheet for front of the field. That leading 3 or 4 are separating themselves just a little bit from Tom Sykes. Sykes doing a good job. Just is going to be after another 5 or 6 laps. Is he still going to be able to hold that consistent pace?
New fastest lap of the race leader. Throw Bautista. Has Bautista had a problem somewhere? And it's Leon Haslam who has managed to find his way in front of the pair of them. Michael van der Mark is going to attempt to pounce. Davies going to try the cutback manoeuvre here, but Bautista responds. Once again, these 3 red machines almost side by side. He's back for Razgatlioglu. Things getting tasty for 2nd position. Still the fight is for a little bit of breathing space while these 4 are knocking spots off one another to be 13 to start another lap. Still a very 2 clear packs developing at the front.
Yeah, Davis going to try and make the move in. Just drives around the outside of Leon Haslam. That's good riding there from Chaz Davis just to get that bike stopped into 6th position. So
Davies takes up the challenge and will now attempt to off that BMW, particularly around time, but he's not able necessarily to do so elsewhere around the circuit. It looks as Caricasulo there out in the gravel trap as Scott Redding goes wide.
Down in turn 4 there for Caricasulo for Taddy.
That we saw between 2 green machines for the field, with Jonathan Rea under pressure from the young pretender Turkish rider Toprak Razgatlioglu. Over the last season or so, it's Rea who's still the man on top. Razgatlioglu fancies finding his way through.
Yeah, Top going to put himself
also coming through, so whether Haslam made an error or simply was swallowed up, the positions, and Tom Sykes pulls up down the start-finish straight, losing positions hand over fist. You can see the approaching group coming through, and that faster for Tom Sykes towards the top of the field.
Other goals for him for today, so we'll wait and see what he can do in tomorrow's racing.
Ray Razgatlioglu has come back onto their tail as well, only a second separating that lead quartet, and Haslam beginning to drop back at this lane.
Yeah, Rinaldi doing a good job to get himself up into the top 8 there and split the two Hondas, and it'll be interesting to see this race. We know he's going to be able to manage his tyres quite well. He did that in Phillip Island, and now we just need to see what he's able to do. You can see here crash down at turn 4.
Here in Jerez, Toprak Razgatlioglu. Reading, we've seen Reading pop out for a couple of goes down the inside, but on each occasion Razgatlioglu has been a demon second position. Loris Baz is keeping a watching brief. The Frenchman out here, Chaz Davies has started to we could well
and the tyres, because we're around about 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds off the pace. The reason for that is these higher temperatures just mean that you have to be so careful with your tyres throughout, and if you just in front of you, it's very easy just to overwork the tyre, and then
Championship leader Alex Lowe all level at the top of the championship between the two teammates Lowe's and Ray. Still a long way to go, of course, both forward to drop too many points, particularly after making such a sparkling start to this 2020 campaign.
Yeah, and the key thing for him to recover from that 5th row start and try and put yourself back into a position and still score some decent points, try and break up this group. You can see though Baz just starting to fade a little bit, slip back 1/10 of a second here, 1/10 of a second there from the
down the start finish. Leaders with Michael Bautista, Rinaldi swarming all over the tail of Michael Vandermark, who hasn't been able to shake Bout since the start of this race. Leon Haslam beginning to drop back now from Rinaldi, and Alex Lowe's will be hoping to pounce the leaders.
So that can help just be a little stiffer, just for the Yamaha riders, giving that little bit more confidence closer to the end of the race.
Still very close indeed between Vandermark and Bautista for 6th position. Good weekend in Phillip Island, and in fact level with Michael Vandermark. Bautista gained 2/10 of a second on Michael Vandermark has indeed been put into effect. Bautista, the background of that shot there between Bautista and now Rinaldi through on Michael Vandermark, who's down to 8th.
Yeah, you can see problems there for Rinaldi as well. There's something flailing from the back of his bike, whether
ended up with Michael Ruben Rinaldi between himself and his direct quarry. Bautista in 6th, Ruben Rinaldi now, and Alex Lowe's continuing to make the next fight for 9th position, because Lowe's has made a few tenths of a second over the last couple of laps as Bautista.
So maybe just overworking those tyres, just putting a little bit too much temperature through them, and whereas Rinaldi just has the advantage, the power of the Ducati.
A pack, but at least he has made ground in the early stages, and now he's got Leon Haslam as they head in towards the final turn to see out lap number 8. Jonathan Ray has already of his fellow countryman, the Honda of Leon. You're not going to get through this.
Last couple of laps, and you can see the frustration there for the Dutchman as
speaking poetry there as he gets away from the circuit. Michael Vandermark, a colourful character, and he's going such a fantastic weekend for him just a year ago, and it's a scooter power as opposed to that Yamaha power
by just under half a second now. So they are really starting to put the pressure on one another. The pace on the last lap, it did drop in the race, so once again, are we seeing that pace being managed? Or
Michael Ruben Rinaldi, incidentally, has managed to get in front of Alvaro Bautista for 6th position. Meanwhile, Bautista much improved so far this weekend. See the power of that Ducati as Scott Redding makes early ground, but the Turkish rider so good on the brakes into turn number 1. Still no opportunity for him to find his way through. The lack of it that might have been left by Michael Vandermark's machine.
Yeah, for these riders just trying to, or do you just try and manage this?
Redding fastest of this trio last lap around, but there's not much in it so far. Scott Redding, who finished, who leads from Razgatlioglu, Redding, and Loris Baz hasn't given up either, which goes wrong for this lead quartet.
Yeah, Chaz Davies just managing his race quite well. He was half a second faster than the race leader. So we've seen it with Loris Baz as well. He's been able to pull back a few tenths of a second on that leading trio. So you do look at it
to move him up into 8th position, but now he's got 4.5 seconds to recover against Alvaro Bautista.
Yeah, he lost 1.5 seconds last time around to the riders. The gap is between Lowe's and Bautista, but it looks like it's around about 4 seconds, so lots of ground to make up.
Backwards after a strong opening lap where he made his way up into 9th position. He's now down in 16th place, so with Sykes encountering problems and Laverty outside of the points.
Yeah, we saw Laverty just run a little bit wide in the early stages cover from that. We know he's had some problems over the course this weekend. He had a crash in free practice
each season. So the top 3 up at the front, as you'd expect. The podium into the second half of the race now. Lap number 11. It's still Ray from Razgatlioglu and Redding, and it's Bold who's going to be the first to try a break against Jonathan Ray.
Well, the red, he pulled in half a second on the previous lap. On this lap, he's managed to pull in another few tenths of a second. The gap
have a top 5 shootout at this stage. Michael Ruben Rinaldi is almost 3 seconds back in 6th position, and he takes a look up the inside into turn number 5 for the back straight. On the way down to turn number 6, can Scott Redding in the slipstream find his way through into second?
Down in towards the breaking point for turn 6, but finally able to make that move. Now the question becomes straight up to the back of the number 1 Kawasaki.
Just a second covering the top 4 in what's already been, and in now is where the action will really start to hot up, because those podium places are available. The light drop right back, so problems for him at least to gain some experience on the machine. For his action, he's not going to score, of course, from all the way down at the back of the field and 6 laps back, but up with Mercado.
Yeah, that's down into turn 6 there for Taddy Mercado. At least it looks like he's had
Mercado, as this machine's there from the lead quartet as well as they make their way through. It's Jonathan Ray who leads it, third position. He's now going to come under pressure from Loris Baz. Meanwhile, Scott Redding is now taking the fight to just lap around. He's now right on his so making progress. He's 10th position, so Melandri certainly playing the long game. He's part of that secondary group behind Bautista. Melandri for the moment has found his place in 8th position. We're watching the top 4 keeping their powder, put in some fireworks to find his way past Razgatlioglu. Push, push, push. Jonathan Ray out in front
as well, because we've seen in the past that Kawasaki hasn't been working great in the very. You can see Jonathan a little starting to push on again another little bit.
And Chaz Davies, watch out for Davies in the closing stages, challenging for a podium position. He's another man who's played the long game. He started in 7th position on the grid, and another one for whom you can say he perhaps can,
because at one stage he kept chipping away at it. He hasn't tried to push too hard to try and use up all of his tyre. He's just been keeping this 7 machine.
Catching up with Marco Melandri after his overtakes on Alex Lowe's, first Leon Haslam, and then
another Ducati move being made down into.
We're going to be down once again to enter lap number 15. Nothing to choose between our lead trio. It's Phillip Island all
sort of battle at the front of the field. 6 laps to go. It really is a case of who's going to be able to try and attack, who's going to be able to bike through turn 5 down the back straight.
Is going to nab certainly the 2 Yamahas looking vulnerable at the moment.
Yeah, David, that's why he's been able to close up so rapidly on this group. And you can see Top Rack on the 50.
Redding looked over him. Ray tried to cut back but couldn't find his way through. A kick-off in the closing stages here in Jerez.
Yeah, you can see from that look over the shoulder of Scott Redding take the lead, and then you react to the consequences thereafter. But the consequences are that everyone with that move.
And that will have been sweet for him to scythe his way past the reigning world champion, move Jonathan Ray, all-time great of WordSBK.
And you can see from Redding, he's already trying to break away. Let's see what the gap is as they come across lane. Fondu on his first flying lap with their air.
Through to 5th position himself to make up that 2.5 seconds. He's done so really diligently, and now we have a lead quintet.
We saw Alvaro Bautista just able to walk away at the front of the field last year here in the opening 2 race. Jonathan Ray going to be able to get himself close enough.
Front is enabling Razgatlioglu to come back onto their tail, and as on the tail of Loris Baz, they are absolutely nose to tail for 4th position.
Yeah, a little bit messy from Scott Redding. Ray to be able to pounce on it, but it's enough to give Jonathan Ray an awful lot.
He knows that he's putting Redding under pressure, get the better of Scott Redding. Through turn number 13, after this actually coming under some pressure from Razgat's way past Loris Baz, potentially into turn 6.
Yeah, a matter of about 3 corners until he finds his way past Baz, you'd imagine. He's looking very comfortable on that Ducati, but Baz does defend a little bit aggressively on the run in there to make sure he gets his bike down the inside. Is he close?
But if not, top 5 still locked closely together, but every moment that Davies spends behind Baz is a moment less than he satisfactory. An impressive ride from Chaz Davies to lead the pace of this lead group for various stages to find his way through to the front.
Yeah, it's a big challenge here. A little bit of confidence back on that Ducati V4 Orbit. You can see at the front of Jonathan Ray.
Redding is the man with the power and the pace. Jonathan Ray can't handle the heat of Jerez, as Davies once again menacing on Baz. Again, he's going to have a go early, as was a custom of the Ducati.
Davis to try and get himself onto the podium. The gap between himself and Toprak Razi, very aggressive, try and bridge that gap quickly, try and attack Toprak, and then if you're Chaz Davis, you're still thinking move himself through on Toprak and Jonathan Ray.
So Davies for the moment has got his hands full with Loris Baz, who's attempting to got anything to offer in the closing laps here in Jerez.
He's got the pace to match Scott Redding right now. But we have seen Scott run in a little bit deep. Needs to stick.
Further back down the order, the positions have very much stabilised. championship leader Alex Lowe's sit lead. He would be our new championship leader after race number 1 here in Jerez. Has Jonathan Rea got the others from Rea, Razgatlioglu, Davies, and
move himself onto the podium?
We know how good Razgatlioglu is on with Marco Melandri on his comeback weekend. He's certainly going to be well and truly up there for the has made his way through very nicely from 19th on the grid. We saw from him last season, but
put himself into the top 10 shows just how good a package that.
Redding is putting the hammer down. It's almost a second now, the gap to Jonathan Rea in second position, and we could ages. Davies menacing on Razgatlioglu, who's not far behind his master Jonathan Rea in second.
World SBK race victory.
The fight is for third. Look how close Davies is to Razgatlioglu. He's not going to get down the inside turn 13. In fact, he misses the apex, gathers it up. Turn number 1. Is Davies going to be able to find his way past Razgatlioglu? He gets alongside. The Turkish rider is late on.
Is willing to give it that extra yard, but for Chaz Davies, he's clearly got that faster bike underneath him. Now the key thing is just exit turn 5 where we are right now as well as possible.
The move done early, but Razgatlioglu has the inside. Davies Gatlioglu has got it stopped nicely, and Razgatlioglu successfully defends third position. Could well be a banzai.
Yeah, it's going to be the only opportunity for Chaz Davies, but it sorts itself as that last dash overtaking.
To get on terms now for a podium place, and as we head into the breath, it certainly looks like it. Only the favourite close enough, but up at the front of the field, Scott, second World Superbike weekend, passes Jonathan Rea and wins race 1 in Jerez. Stages, Michael Ruben Rinaldi, Alvaro Bautista, Alex Lowe's, the former championship leader, who'll get his victory, and Leon Haslam rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, for the first time in 7 years, Scott Redding's. You can see from the timing tower on the left-hand side of the screen just how strong the Ducatis are, with Scott Redding winning this race, returning to World SBK and still able to finish inside the top 8. So that Ducati V4R package working really well last year, but Scott Redding able to take advantage of it and to take the race victory.
In second place, no disaster whatsoever for John.
That's all you can do really in any form of racing of chances. It's going to be even more important this year because of Ducati just had that little bit extra on the Kawasaki, but it's just very impressive from Jonathan Rea to walk away with 20 points in a very difficult day. One of the hottest days, an awful lot better than what we've seen at different times in the past in the hot conditions.
As you saw a couple of moments ago, Marco Melandri made up 11th in race 2. In the meanwhile, our focus on the podium trio, it's Scott Redding who is